Good day, everyone. This is your instructor, Dr. J. Today, I will be introducing you to the concept of dynamic inventory in Ansible. So specifically, I will explain Ansible dynamic inventory, why they are needed, we will have an appreciation for when they are needed, and how to set them up. So I will take you through a step-by-step process very slowly on how to set up dynamic inventory. So I hope at the end of this lecture you will have an appreciation for what dynamic inventories are, and you will be able to develop skills necessary to set up your own Ansible inventory, at least in AWS. Remember last week we started with the concept of dynamic with inventory generally in Ansible. And one of the things we said was, imagine you are a system administrator in charge of managing these 7 set of servers. So this set of servers will be your managed node. And the first thing you do, or one of the first things you do in Ansible, is to create a kind of a file, whether it's an INI file or the YAML file, that will contain the list of all the managed hosts, like you have on the screen here. So this list will be what you call inventory, which is the list of the hosts that you are going to be managing with Ansible. In fact, you can even take a step further by grouping these servers together, either as a DB server, web server, as a way of controlling how Ansible interacts with the server. And remember, we call this form of inventory as a static inventory, meaning that right before you set up you run your Ansible command, you already have the list of all the servers, and you copy the IP address of the server or the server name onto a file that you maintain as your inventory. But again, this is not always the case in reality. You may have a situation where your inventory, your servers fluctuate rapidly. For example, you can have a situation where as your workload changes, servers are disappearing, servers are appearing on a rapid basis. And this is especially true when you are working with cloud servers, right? It can be difficult to maintain a list of hosts or servers when things are constantly changing, right? You have servers are disappearing, servers are reappearing. This is especially true when you have frequently changing IPs, in case you have auto-scaling in place, where the number of servers go up and down based on your workload. You may also have a scenario where servers are not provisioned ahead of time, right? Servers are provisioned dynamically during runtime. In that situation, the idea of maintaining a list of inventory is really meaningless. You have to have a way to dynamically create inventory. Don't worry, don't sweat about it. Ansible has come up with a solution, which is dynamic inventory. Ansible has a set of plugins, Ansible dynamic inventory plugins, that allow Ansible to automatically, dynamically detect existing host to be managed, right? So using Ansible plugin, you can actually dynamically generate the list of the servers to be managed, which is known as dynamic inventory. So today specifically, I'm going to show you how we can use Ansible AWS Dynamic Inventory plugin, AWS plugin for Ansible Dynamic Inventory. And for this hands-on, for this class, I've made a couple of assumptions that will guide how I approach this class. One is I assume that you've set up your control node, meaning that you have your control server or your local host or your computer, whatever you use as your control node, with Ansible installed, you have Python installed on it, and you have all your AWS credential set up on your server. Also, you have your PEM key already copied from your local machine onto your cloud server if you are using cloud server for you as your control node. I also want to believe that you've logged onto your AWS management console and you are able to create EC2 instances that we will be using in this class as our manage hosts. So like I said, here is my control node, Ansible control node. So I have my cloud server running already. So the first thing I will do is I will try to connect my cloud server to my VS Code. I told you I don't like to use Vim or VI command, so I would rather connect my cloud server to my VS Code, which is what I'm comfortable with. So I will click on this. I believe you remember the drill. So I will copy this first. Let me copy this. All right, that's good. Then I will head over to my VS Code to set up my VS Code to be able to interact with my cloud server. So now on my VS Code, remember I need to click on this blue ribbon. It may be green on yours. Click on the blue ribbon and go to connect to host. Once I click on connect to host, I have two of them set up before, but I will just go through connect to host, configure SSH host. Let me click on that. Then I will go through my user SSH config. So once I click on that, you will see the list of the connection that I've established before. So let me just go to the bottom here. Let me paste this. Let me comment it out and paste this. I think I will use the first one. So my host name, I'm just modifying this. So remember, each time you stop and start your server, you have to change this. So that's why I'm changing this. So I'll remove host name. The host name is from this place onward. So I will copy this. I will put it here. Of course, it's Amazon Linux 2. So this is still correct. And my PEM key is also correct. All right. So I'll be using this AWS Ansible to connect to my server. I believe I'm in business right now. So let me test to be sure. Now I will save that, close this, and then go back here, click on connect to host again, and then this is the one we just configured. So I click on this. So now I will continue. So I have a pop-up. Once I click on the pop-up, it's connecting. I think it's connected. I will show. So now you can see on my pop-up, I've been able to connect to my AWS Ansible controller. So to confirm that, I can just open a terminal. On my terminal, you can see it's EC2, which can see the IP address. But to confirm that, I can just test I can just ls. Yeah, as you can see, this was what we did in the last class. I can also, what else can I do? I can also try to check who am I. I should be EC2 user. So everything is working. Yeah, I'm in business. Okay, now I can start. So to confirm my assumption, right? I said one, I assume that you set up your server with Ansible installed, your control node with Ansible installed. So Ansible that version. Yeah, I have Ansible installed. That's good. So let me check Python too. Python that version. Yeah, I have Python installed. Oh, what's that? Let me check Python 3. Yes, I have Python 3 installed. That's good. That's good. Right. I also want you to be sure that you've configured the AWS credentials. Let me test AWS STS get caller identity. So that's clear. It shows that I've set up everything. So I met all the conditions. So before you proceed, if you've not done this, you can pause at this point. Make sure you set up your control node and everything is working. Then you can come back and continue with this video. So once you have everything set up, so the first thing I will do is to create a directory that we will use for this class. So I will make directory, I will call it module 3, and I will cd into module 3. Okay, while in module 3, I can type code dot to open up VS Code in module 3. Okay, let's go. So as you can see, you see my VS Code in module 3 now. So, all right. So the next step is to set up some of the requirement that we need. So I will bring up my note as usual, notes.txt. So we need 2 requirements, at least requirements. So one is we need to install AWS collection. So that's the AWS plugin that we will use for creating a dynamic inventory. So we also need to install a package that Python requires to interact with AWS. That is Bodo 3. So those are the 2 things we need to install on our server. All right. To start with, yeah, you can install the first one, the AWS plugin, by using Ansible Galaxy collection install amazon.aws. Right? So once that is installed, you can list all your collection to, especially the Amazon AWS plugin with this command, Ansible Galaxy collection list amazon.aws. Okay, so let's do the first step. Let's install it first. Let me copy this. Okay, let me open my terminal. Remember, I've connected this to my cloud server, so I should be able to install it no problem. So I paste it. Ansible Galaxy collection install AWS. That's the plugin that we need to generate the dynamic inventory. So I run that. Hopefully it's working. So that may take a minute. That was actually pretty quick. So let me run the second command to confirm if I have something. That was pretty quick. So let me copy this, right? Let me paste it here. All right, let me run that. Okay. Okay guys, now that I've installed, I can run it again, but I've installed AWS collection to just tell me that I have it installed already. It can take a couple of minutes, but I just expect it to tell me that I have it. Says skipping is already installed. So be careful guys, this particular command may give you error depending on the version of Ansible you have. So don't worry if it's error. As long as you get a message that is already installed, that's okay. In my own case, I think I have version 2.9, so it's possible I will get error. But don't worry. The purpose of this is just to check the if AWS collection, Amazon.aws plugin is already installed. But I guess it's installed. So it depends on the version that you have. So it's possible I will get error. That's okay. It's error. It's error. So this particular command was added after version 2.9, I guess. So if I do Ansible dot version, so I think I have version 2.9. So that command was added after. So that's why I'm unable to run that command. But that's okay. That's fine. That's no problem. So the first requirement is satisfied, I believe. So let's go to the next requirement. So we're going to install Boto 3. Boto 3 is Python plugin. It's required by Python to interact with AWS. So let's install Boto 3. It's very simple. Let's just do pip 3 install Boto 3. Actually, there are two packages, but there are two packages involved. The second one is Boto Core. I think it's Boto Core. So this is, but once you install Boto, Boto Core will be installed alongside. So just run pip3. I will actually do sudo pip3 in case. Sudo pip3 install. Let me put it here. Let me put it in the notes so that you have it. Sudo pip3 install Boto 3. So I think I've installed it before, but I will run it again and see what it says. Okay, it said it's already satisfied. So I said there are two packages, right? So you can see Boto Core is also installed alongside Boto. It said Boto Core is installed from Boto. So I think I'm good. So with those two requirements satisfied, I think we can move forward to the next step. Let me save this. So let's move forward to the next step now. So guys, before I do anything, so let's go to our AWS and spin up 4 instances. So two instances will be Ubuntu. The other 2 will be Red Hat or Amazon Linux 2. So I will use Amazon Linux 2 and Ubuntu. So 2 Ubuntu EC2 instances and 2 Amazon Linux 2 instances. Okay, let's go on to our AWS and do that. Again, you can see I'm on my AWS management console. I will click on my EC2. I have just one running, which is my Ansible control node, so to say. So okay, what's going on here? Let me click on instances. Okay, so you can see in my own case, I have 2 Amazon Linux T2 micro, but I stopped it, so I will just restart this. But if you don't have this, you have to follow. Let me just show you. In case you need. I know you can do it, but let me just show you. So you launch instance. For the first one, you use Ubuntu. All right. Then you select Ubuntu. I like to use Ubuntu Server 20.04, right? Again, let's use T2 micro. T2 micro is okay. So make sure you select the key pair that you've been using. Mine is this. That's the one I've been using. Is the one that I have on my configured on my control node, right? On my Ansible control node. So it matches, right? So remember, when it comes to settings, we had a security group. In this case, I told us that we are adding extra security group to allow all traffic actually. We allow all traffic and the type is from anywhere. And I told us that this is not the best practice in production environment. I'm just allowing traffic for the purpose of this class. Again, let me repeat that. I'm allowing all traffic for the purpose of this class. In production environment, we only allow traffic that you require for your application. Please know that. So now that is set. So the number of instances, let's use 2, change it to 2. And you launch those 2 instances. In my own case, I have it launched already. I won't launch it, I will just cancel it. But in your own case, you have to launch it, and you repeat the same thing for the Amazon Linux instances that you want to set up. So I will cancel this. Please don't forget to allow all traffic, because if you don't do that, you run into trouble. So I will select my 4 instances and go to instance state and start all the 4 instances. It may take a couple of minutes. We just wait for that to be ready. Then we can continue with our class. Now I believe all my instances are ready. Let me just check. Okay. You can see my Linux, Amazon Linux. It has the same name. That's okay. That's fine. That's what I want. Amazon Linux, Amazon 2, Ubuntu. That's what I want. That's no problem. That's the way I want it. It's running. It's still initialized. It hasn't passed the health check, but we can continue from here. Okay. So now I've configured my environment. I've set up my host, manage host this time around. Then I will go to my VS Code now and set up some code. Let's do some coding to get this thing, the dynamic inventory, going. Okay, now I'm on my VS Code. Let's create the same way we did in the last lecture. The first thing we need to do is inside module 3, let's create a directory. Let's call it inventory. We are still going to create inventory directory, right? Inside inventory, let's create a file, and let's call this file, let's name it as AWS ec2.yml. Let's name it like that. That's good. Inside module 3. So okay, let's deal with this file first. So the first thing we need to do is open the AWS ec2 YAML file. So now we have to define the plugin. Which is, in this case, you remember the plugin we downloaded was amazon.aws.aws ec2. Okay, we have to provide AWS profile. You may be wondering where this profile is from. If you have configured your AWS on your server, you should be able to find. So if you go to locate your AWS profile, just cat this directory, or this file, sorry, AWS/credentials. It will give you the name that is assigned your AWS configuration. I won't run it because I don't want you to see my Amazon secret key. So that's why I won't run it. But if you run it, it should be like this. In my own case, it's like this. You will see something like this. See something like this that says default. So it's so similar to configuration files. Default AWS access key equals ... So this is your profile. This default is the profile. Save it. So in my case, I will put default. So in case yours is not default, you have to replace this with your home, right? Then you define region. In my own case, regions. In my own case, I only have one region. You can have multiple regions. So US East 1. Okay. Okay. I can save that. Once I save that, of course, I also like to, the same drill. You remember the drill? We need to create inside module 3. Module 3. We create Ansible.cfg. We create configuration file. Please make sure your Ansible CFG is not inside inventory. Make sure they are on the same level in the module 3, right? So the drill is the same. What we want to do is to define some of our default configuration that we want to use. So we start with defaults with S, right? No capital letter. And the first thing is to provide our inventory. Our inventory is located in the current directory. Inside inventory, make sure you spell it right. It's inventory, yeah, and it's located here. /AWS ec2.yml. Please make sure you're so this is YML. I've made that mistake multiple times. So if this is YML, this is YML. So if you turn this to YAML, it's not going to work. So if you name this as YAML, make sure this is also named as YAML. So consistency is the key. That's the point I'm trying to make here. So let's set ask for password. Let's say false is that. We don't want to ask for password, false. So what else do we want to show? So another thing we want to show is to provide, sorry, I said provide, let's say private key file. Okay, again, where can you find the private key file? So if you have configured your environment, or the assumption I talked about at the beginning, your PEM file will be located here. Let me see, ls/.ssh/. So this is where my PEM key is, right? So if I do pwd, okay. So let me do it like this. Let me go to /home/ec2 user/.ssh/ my PEM key. My PEM key is Mac key pair. My key pair, I guess, .pem. Let me see if it works. Let me cut that. So that's correct. That works. Let me clear the screen. Let me recall. So this is the location of my key. So I will copy that. I can type it, but I'll just copy it. That's okay. Okay, so that's where my PEM key is. Let me save that. Let me save that. Okay. Okay, let me show. This is not necessary, but I will just no at this point. So the more another important thing you need to set is inventory. You need to include AWS plugin among the enable plugins. So you put AWS underscore EC2. That's important. Of course, if you like, you can include others. Host list. You can take script. You can take auto. You can take YAML. You can take ini. But this is the most important thing. This is the one we want to include. This is not included by default. So that's why we are including this. Let's save that. So now that we've saved this, the moment of truth, let's so with what we have now, let's test our configuration to be sure that everything is working. Okay, now with our inventory set and the Ansible configuration set, so we've set the path to the dynamic inventory that we created, right? We ask path false. We've indicated PEM, and like I said, this is the moment of truth. Don't forget we enable plugin. We included AWS EC2 in the plugin. So this is the moment of the truth that I was talking about. So to check if everything is okay, let's see. We use this command. Let me go to my notes. Let me add it. So let's check if everything is good. To check if everything is good, that means to verify our dynamic inventory. We run this command. We run Ansible dash inventory dash graph, or we can use Ansible dash inventory dash list. I use graph because it's cleaner, crispier. Okay, here you go. Let me create more space so that we can see what we are up to. If everything works, you will see. Here you go. Remember, we did not specify any host in our inventory, right? But suddenly, with the dynamic inventory, we're able to pull all the EC2 instances. Let's count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 instances. So let's quickly confirm if that's true on my AWS console. Now I'm on my AWS console. Let's quickly confirm that. Quickly. So how many do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, that's not right. That's not right. It's telling me I have 7 or 8 or something. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I actually have 8. So 2 of them stopped and 6 are running. So if I go back to my VS Code, right? I go back to my VS Code. Now I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you can see there's a problem here. The problem is simple. I have 6 running and 2 stopped, but it's pulling all the stopped. That's not what I want. Okay, there's a solution to that. So we go back to our AWS EC2, the inventory, the dynamic inventory. There are some additional arguments that we can provide. So, okay, one of it is let's filter. We can use filter. Command, filters, command. What do we want to filter? Let's filter instance state name. Let's put the name as running. So we are only looking for running instances, instance state running. So we save it again. Let's go back. We have 8 now, and we know 6 of the servers are the ones running. So let's call the graph again and see. Now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So yeah, we are moving forward. You can see how we are dynamically changing the property, our host, based on the variable we are defining with this in this inventory file with this plugin. So this is pretty interesting. And you may actually be wondering, where am I getting this from? Where am I getting this code from? Do you need to know all of this by hand? No, you don't. So we can actually go to Ansible documentation and figure it out. So let me bring up Ansible. I will bring up Ansible documentation. And from Ansible documentation, we may be able to figure it out. Let me see. Just give me a minute. Here. I'm looking for my answer. Okay. So here is the documentation. So everything I've been telling you, you can actually see it in the documentation. So remember, I told you how to install the plugin. Here is it. Here you go. This is where we got it from, right? So this is how we install the plugin. So I told you about the requirement. Here you go. So here is. So I told you how to name your configuration file. Here you go. Here is it. I told you about the requirement. It requires Python 3.6 and above. You need to install Bodo and Bodo Core. Remember when we installed Bodo, we got Bodo Core. That's good. So, and here you see lots of configuration. So I told you need to configure your AWS environment, credentials. This is why, because it's required. I told you about AWS profile, but this is the interesting part. Let me just scroll down slowly at the bottom of this page. You scroll to the bottom of this page, you see different options provided for us that we can use to control the behavior of our dynamic inventory. Let me see. I'm coming. Just bear with me. Just keep coming. Keep going. Here you go. See, you can see the plugin specified. If you go back to our code, it's the same thing we specified in our code. Let me see. Yeah, it's the same thing we've specified, right? It's the same thing, right? It's the same thing we have in the documentation, right? So the documentation is using Bodo profile, right? In our case, we're using AWS profile. It's the same thing, somewhere there. So I talked about filter. So let me go down and see the filter we're using. So there are so many options you can specify here, right? So this is the filter we're using, right? To be able to get all the running instances, right? So many different ways you can configure your server. So I just want to show this page, right? In the meantime, I will copy the link to this. And put it in the notes. Let me copy that. Now you see that. Let's go back to our VS Code and let's go back to our notes. Let's go back to our notes. Let me put a link to this. There is the link. It's ansible.com/Ansible latest collection, and you go to Amazon AWS inventory. Here you go. Here is that. Here is that. Here is that. That's how you find that. Let me save that. So now you can see without defining any host, without listing any host, IP or name within our inventory file, we were able to actually dynamically we were able to dynamically get the list of our running instances. But remember, our goal is actually to use Amazon 2 and Ubuntu for our example, right? We want to use Ansible to configure the Amazon and Ubuntu, and we have 6 of them. The question then is, how do we filter out the ones that we need? So we're going to use name. We're going to use this name, right? So if you click on this, if you click on this instance, right, and you can go to tags, right? It has one tag. The tag is name, and the value is Amazon, right? Amazon 2, right? So let's go back. We're going to take advantage of that, all right? And so let me go back to my instances. So we're going to take advantage of that. So if we go back to the documentation, right? The documentation actually gives us something like this. We can filter like this. We're going to take advantage of something like this. That's how we're going to filter. That's how we're going to filter. Yeah, that's how we're going to filter our group. Or maybe we should use this. Let's use this. Let's use something more generic. Let's use keyed group. And we're going to use this one. Keyed group and this one. Okay. All right. So let me copy this from here. Let me go to the VS Code. Let's continue configuring this. So let's go down. Let's paste what we've copied. So let me remove this. I don't need this. We don't need this. So this is what we're going to use. So we're going to group by tags. Remember, at this point, there's no group. Everything is grouped under AWS-EC2, which is normal. But now we've specified keyed group. We are saying group it by tag. So what that means is we group them together by tags. Okay, let's go. Here you go. Now you see I have everything under AWS EC2 instance, which are all my servers, which makes sense, right? And then you have tag name Ubuntu, right? And you have tag name Ubuntu. So the Ubuntu is under Ubuntu, the Amazon 2 is under Amazon 2, and there are these other two, right? There are these other two, right here. Okay. So this is good. We are making progress. You can see how you can see the grouping. Okay. Okay, so we can continue. You can see how we've been able to generate our inventory dynamically. So if I maximize this, increase the size of this, let me go back, let me clear my screen, let me run the command again. So see all the servers are grouped under AWS EC2, yeah. And you see the 2 under Ubuntu are grouped under Ubuntu, the other 2 under Amazon Linux, a group under Amazon Linux, and there are the other two servers that I have are also included. So this is how you generate inventory dynamically. So before we close for the day, let me just show, let's run some ad hoc command just to see how we can use this. Let's start with let's run some Ansible command. Let's start with ad hoc command. So the first thing you will want to know is to see, is this really working, right? So let's start with let's start with this group, which is all, similar to all. So let's copy this. AWS, we don't need to copy it actually. So you can run Ansible AWS EC2, which is the name of that group, which is the name of the first group, AWS EC2, right? We specify our inventory, we specify our PEM key, that's good. So the first time I will do it, it will error. It will give error, and I will tell you why. I will tell you error. It will error. So let's use M. Let's try to ping. Yeah, I'm expecting an error, and that's deliberate. So yes, yes. I'm expecting error. Yeah, that's what I'm expecting. Yes. That's normal, because it failed to connect to the host. The reason is we did not provide the username. Remember, we have two type of users. We have two type of users, right? We have our Amazon server and Ubuntu server. So the default user for Amazon is EC2 user, and for Ubuntu is Ubuntu. So we need to specify that, right? So that's why it gave us error. So let's go back. Let's go back to our VS Code now and continue with what we're working on. So now let's recall the last one. But this time around, this is what I will do. Let's run the graph again. Let's run the graph again. So now we're going to be selecting the Amazon group. So let me copy that. Copy that. Let me go to Ansible, just for ad hoc Ansible. Let me provide that's the host that we want to, that's the host group that we want to ping, right? And we know that's U to specify the user, and this is Amazon. The user will be EC2 user, right? Then we specify the module we want to use, which is ping, right? And we see what happens. Yeah, there you go. There you go, as expected. All right. Oh, one of it failed. Let me see why. Okay, let's run the command again. I checked the code. I think I forgot to add .pem. That was the problem. So make sure you add .pem and everything is good. So let's type it again. Okay. Let me clear my screen. Let me recall the graph again. Okay, let's run it against this group, Let me copy it again. I don't want to make mistake typing, okay. Ansible, let me provide the list. That's the host group, right? So that's the host group, right? The user, don't forget to include the user. The user in this case will be EC2 user, right? And you provide the module with dash M, and the module is ping. You want to ping, right? Okay, that's good. And you you also see that it's not asking for permission again because I included this. So it's not, I don't have to type yes again. It's not asking for permission, which is good. So everything is good, everything is working. So let's recall this again. Let's run the harddoc command against the Ubuntu, right? Okay, that's good. Let's run Ansible. The group in this case is Ubuntu. The tag is Ubuntu, right? The user for this group will be Ubuntu, right? Ubuntu, right? Then we specify the module that we want to use is ping. Of course, it's working, everything is fine. So, okay, let's step back from here and let's go over what we've done already, right? Let me bring this down. So, a couple of things we did, right? We started by installing Ansible Galaxy Collection. We use Ansible Galaxy Collection to install Amazon AWS plugin. We check the list of plugins to be sure that we've installed it. We also saw that from the documentation that Boto3 is required. So we installed Boto3 with this command. We installed Boto3 with this command. And along with Boto3, Boto was installed. So those are requirements, right? Right? So then we went on to set up our dynamic inventory, right? Inventory. So how did we do that? Simple. We created an inventory directory, right? And inside inventory we created AWS EC2.yaml, right? Let's save that. So then inside AWS EC2.yaml we indicated this plugin, right? We indicated the AWS profile that we're using. How did I determine my profile? I said if you cat this directory on your server, if you cat this, you will get something like this, right? So whatever you have here is the name, is your default AWS profile, right? So that's what you include here, right? And you indicate the region where the host, the EC2 instances in this case that you want to manage is. In my case, my EC2 instances are in US East 1. You can have it in multiple regions. All you need is to list all those regions, right? So if I have in US East 2, I will include it all and on as many as I want, right? So let me remove that. I don't have any other I don't have EC2 instances in any other region. That's good. So I use filter to only return running servers, right? Running EC2 instances, right? And I use key. So for key groups, I use tag to group them. So that way I can group my instances by tag, and that's why when we were setting it up, I told us to use tags, specific tags, because that tag will be used to group them together. So, and we went on to our Ansible configuration file. We indicated a path to our inventory, right? We said we disable password, right? We provided our PEM key, right? We also disable the host key checking, right? And this is so important. On that inventory, we added AWS EC2 plugin to the list of enable plugin. Those are very important. So with all of this setup, we can actually go back to, we can then go back to our command line and run one of these command. I'm running graph. You can run list and see what you get, right? So when we run graph, you can actually see your inventory coming through dynamically. That's cool. That's impressive. That's impressive. And after we did that, we also ran some we ran ad hoc command. Let me even add it to the note. We started with ad hoc command. So what is important with this ad hoc command, like we said, is what is important is you need to specify user with -u flag when you are running, right? What else is important, right? You need to specify group name, right? So in this case, an example you can run is Ansible. So let me copy one of the group name. Let me copy Amazon Linux. So that's the group name, right? Then you can specify the user. For Amazon Linux, it's EC2 user, right? Then you can specify the module you want to use, right? Let's even use date this time around. Let's use shell and supply argument, and let's say date. Let's look for date, right? So let me copy this. Let me take it there, right? Let me take it here. Let me run it. So you can see the date on the first server, the date on the second server. You can see it's almost 2 a.m. It's after 1 a.m. in the middle of the night where I am. So it will be 7 a.m. wherever you are. If you're in Nigeria, it will be 7 a.m. In my area, it's 1 a.m. So I'm actually I'll wake so late to get this recording to you guys. That's good. Okay, that's good. We are good with ad hoc command. So the next thing I want to do is I want to incorporate playbook into this. See how we can use this ad hoc dynamic inventory in our in a playbook, just to have a complete end-to-end understanding of how to use dynamic inventory. So the first thing I will do is I will go into my module 3 directory, right? Create a playbook. You can call it any name, but I will call my own playbook.yml. Good. Oh no, I'm in the wrong folder, so I have to bring it in, right? Yeah, now it's in the correct folder. Good. Okay, let me close this. I don't need this again. Right? So remember how we write playbook, right? The first thing is to indicate dash 3 dashes. That shows that this file is a YAML file. That tells Ansible it's a YAML file. So the first thing you need to define a play, right? So the first play, let's give it a name. Okay, let's call it Ansible Dynamic Inventory, right? Again, you tab it in. The indentation is very important. Let's gather facts. This is important. I will tell you. I will talk more about this in subsequent video or subsequent classes. Just stay tuned. So gather fact is true, right? Okay. We need to provide user. You remember we used -u on the command line when we were running ad hoc command, but in a playbook we we use user, right? In this user, let's start with Ubuntu user. Ubuntu user, right? Again, we're going to specify the hosts. Okay, let's go back to the command line and find out let's find the name of our Ubuntu host. So, okay, let me quickly do that again. I just run the graph, the inventory graph, right? I know my Ubuntu, this is the name of my Ubuntu host, right? Okay, good. I have that. Now, as part of my play, let me define tasks. So, which are group of tasks that will be that this play will perform, right? So, targeting once again. Now, the first task, let's give it a name. So, what should we call it? What should we call it? Let's run shell command. Let's run shell command, right? Right. So you provide the command. The module is command, right? So what do we want to run as part of the command? You can ping www.google.com. We want our server to ping that, right? And we want to ping it 10 times, right? That's good. So we give it users Ubuntu, right? We define host as this. That's good. Let's ping that. So let's Ansible playbook.yml. Of course, we don't need to specify the inventory. Of course, our inventory is even dynamic, so it doesn't really, it's immaterial now. Okay, it's asking for, say, did you mean to run Ansible? Yeah, that's what I meant to run. That's a mistake. But it's actually a good learning experience. Ansible playbook, that's how you run playbook. So you run playbook with Ansible playbook, you run addoc command with just Ansible. Okay, that's good. Okay, so it's gathering facts. Say yes, it's gathering fact. Now it's running the shell command on the two instances, right? It's gathered the fact, right? And it's run it. Yeah, that's good. We're good. Everything is fine. Okay. So another thing we can do is, so let's create another play. Let's say with Ubuntu. Let's change this to with Ubuntu. So let's create another play. I will copy this first play. I will put it here, right? Let's say, so this is the first play. So this second play I will say with Amazon 2, right? So in this case, the tag will be Amazon 2. How did I get that? Let's go back to graph. Where is it? Let's go back to graph, right? This is the graph, right? So this is the tag Amazon 2, right? So okay. The username in this case will be EC2 user, right? Of course, and we've changed the name, which is good, right? Let's save this. Good. So this is an example of a playbook with two different play, and each play, this is the first play, this is the second play. Each play only has one task. In each play, you can have as many tasks as you want, as you need to get your job done. Here you go. So let's run Ansible playbook.yml. So it's gathering fact for Ubuntu. It has gathered a fact. It's running the task for Ubuntu. Bring that up. So it's now gone to the second task, right? It's gathering fact for the second one. It's running shell for the second task, right? See, right? Just run the shell for the second one, and everything is fine. This is a recap. Everything is fine. Okay. There you go. Right. So one more thing before I close for today. One more thing. I want to show us another way of that. So instead of coding your username, there's a way you can actually specify your username. So what I will do is I will copy this. Let me copy this. I will close this. I will create another playbook. I will call it revised playbook.yml. Right? Oh no, I made the same mistake. I need to put it inside. Okay, it's now in there. It's in the monster. Okay. The revised playbook. Let me save this. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to change this to all. We want to ping all the hosts, or in this case let me even say AWS EC2, right? So if you go back here, right? If you look at the graph again, all in this case is under AWS EC2. Yeah, that's all the servers. So you can either use AWS EC2 or all, right? Which is good. Let's save that, right? Okay. But because you want to ping all, not all of them not all the username, not all the servers as username of Ubuntu, right? So how do we deal with that? So we deal with that by using variables. Okay, let's use variable user. Okay, let's use variable user. Let's use variable user. Right? Okay, so how do we define this variable? So in module 3, let's create another directory, and let's name that directory. Let's name it as group _var. That's group variable, right? Inside group variable, let's create a file. Let's call it, let me see what we want to call it. I want to call it tag Ubuntu. Let me call it, copy that. Let me go here. Let me paste it there. So tag name Ubuntu dot YML. Okay, good. So inside that directory, let me define user. So this is Ubuntu. The user will be Ubuntu. That's good. So let me in the same directory, let me create another file. Let me call it tag. Let me change the tag now to amazon2.yml. Okay, so this is this one, amazon2.yml. So inside that, I will define user as EC2 user. So now I will also create I will create another one. I will call it default.yml. Okay, in the default.yml, I will have user defined as EC2 user. So if the server is tagged with Amazon 2, the user will be EC2 user. If it's tagged with Ubuntu, the user will be Ubuntu. If there's no tag, right, it will default to EC2 user. That's what I'm trying to do. So this is what is called magic variable in AWS. So I say in AWS, in Ansible. This is magic variable in Ansible. Magic variable in Ansible. So I don't need to specify anything, any other thing, right? Ansible playbook will automatically pick this value from what I've defined inside this YAML file, as long as I put it inside this group variable vars. That's what is called magic variable in Ansible. So I'm incorporating other stuff into this magic variable. So let's close this. Let's clear my terminal and let's run Ansible playbook. And the playbook we want to run is which playbook? It's the revised playbook. Revised playbook.yml. Okay, it's giving me error. So three of them. So the three of them run. I don't know why the error is, but this is running. That's good. So there's one of them that is giving error. How many servers do we run? Okay, 1, 2. One, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 2 of them is giving error. That's okay. I think I know. User is undefined. User is undefined for those. Okay. Okay, let's go back. Okay, let's go back. Maybe it doesn't want to accept this. Let me change this to, let me rename this as vers and see what happens. Let me see. If it doesn't work, there's another way we can do it. So let's try this first. Let's rerun the command. If it doesn't work, if it doesn't work, okay, all right. So what we can do is, yeah, it still doesn't work. So let's remove this. Let's remove this. That's good. Let's remove this. So now we have our 2 groups working. That's okay. Let's go back to Ansible configuration and let's define another variable. Let's call it remote user. Remote user equals EC2 user. So what we are doing here is, if our playbook does not define a user, in the case of this and this, it doesn't define a user, so the default user will be the remote user that we define here. That's a nifty one. That's a good one. Let's see if this is going to help us out this time around. It's still not working. Still not working. Let's see. Oh, okay. That shouldn't be the problem. Okay, I think it's still not, one of the servers is kind of misbehaving. Let's figure that out now. Let's figure it out. It appears to be one of the ones that we don't really need actually. So what we do is let's refine our dynamic inventory. So what I will do is I will add another filter. Let me add the tag filter. It's tag, right? So I will add tag. Remember, we name our instances as Ubuntu and Amazon 2, right? So we tag it with name. We tag it with name, and we provide a list of name. This way, our dynamic inventory will only return those servers that we already tag with name, right? If you tag it with the environment, you provide the environment here. Please note this, there's no space between this. There shouldn't be space between this. If you do it like this, it's not going to work. It has to be like this, all right? So let's save that. Now let's close it, right? So now let's run our graph. So if you run the graph now, this is good, this is sweet, this is neat, this is what we want. We only want the 4 servers that we want to manage, and those servers are grouped into 2, Ubuntu and Amazon 2. So we don't have these other servers that we don't really need as part of our managed host. That's good, that's great, guys. So now let's run our playbook again. So Ansible playbook, revised playbook, right? We want to run our revised playbook. Let's refresh ourselves with what is in there. All right, this is it. This is it. This is what is in there, which is good. So we're using user. This user will come dynamically from this magic variable that we've defined, right? We define the magic variable with the name of our group, right? This is the first group. Right, this is the second group, right? That's why it's called group verse. That's why it is a magic variable. So it will come dynamically from that. If you open it, this will come from there, right? If you have other variables, you can define it inside there. It will come dynamically from there too. That's good. That's good. That's good. That's good. I will actually give you an example of that. So let's run this. Okay. Yeah. That's good. It's working. Yeah, everything worked, right? So one more thing before we wrap this up, right? You know, I've shown you how to use magic variable here, right? Let's extend this magic variable. Let's say we want to install. Let's say we want to install Apache, right? Let's install Apache on both of them, right? So we want to install Apache on Ubuntu and Amazon 2. Of course, a couple of things here we need to consider. We know that to install Apache on Ubuntu, we use Apache 2, right? But when it comes to Amazon 2, I believe this, we use HTTPD, okay? Now, how can we install these two packages on 2 different servers using the same playbook? So that's what we want to do. So what we can do is there are multiple ways we can do it. One way is let's go into our group var. Inside Amazon Linux, we can define another variable. Let's call it Apache, and we know is HTTPD. The value will be HTTPD. Let's save that, right? We can go into Ubuntu. Let's define exactly the same variable, right? But this time around, Apache will be will be Apache 2, right? So now we can go back to our playbook. Let's go to our playbook. Let's create another play. Let's create an extra play. You can say name, let's say install Apache, right? Okay, there are multiple packages. The next question is what packages? Of course, for Ubuntu, you can use the module. You can use apt module or package module. For Amazon modules, let me put S here, modules. You can also use apt module or, sorry, I said apt, that's wrong. You can use yum, it's yum module or package module. So looking at this, let's opt for package module for this. Okay, let's go back to our playbook. So let's say package. Now let's provide. So now instead of specifying the package that you want to install, you can just use the variable instead, right? Okay. So what will happen is, if Ansible is running on Amazon 2, it will use these variables. If it's running on Ubuntu, it will use this variable. So that's what we've achieved here, right? We've turned our playbook to a dynamic playbook that we can now dynamically actually begin to see how everything fits together. So let's run the playbook again and see. So if everything, so we are gathering facts, so the fact is good. We are running shell, we are running the first task. We are running the first task, which is good. So Ansible is running the task on all the servers concurrently. This failed. Let me see why it failed. I don't know why it failed. Let's see. Okay, say Apache 2 argument invalid argument. Let's see why. I think when you have overzealous teacher, this is what happened. This is my bad. I caused this trouble. So don't worry, I will fix my trouble. Name, I didn't use the command right, so the command complaint state is present, right? Okay, let me confirm. How did I know that? You can actually run Ansible. We talked about this before. Ansible doc. And run package, right? If you run package, so it will give you information about package. So I'm just scrolling through the information, I'm reading it. I don't even have to read it. So now I'm beginning to see, so it gives me example, right? Say I run package, right? I state the name of the package I want to install. In this case, this is the name, and I state the state of the package I want to install. So now I see where my mistake comes from. That's okay. That's okay. At least it's good that I'm making mistake here, so that you guys will avoid those mistakes. Now let's run our playbook again and see. Oh, I didn't save the playbook. Okay. I didn't save the playbook, I know, sorry. So it's installing Apache on the Ubuntu server, okay? Alright. So for some reason it failed to install. You need to be root. Okay, that's good. It's saying I need to be able to install Apache. You need to be root user. That's good. That's good. Remember we talked about that. We talked about that the last time we did this. What you can do is you can say you can just go here and add become to be true. That's it. Now you become the root. You become the root. Let's see if we can do that. Let's see if it will go well this time around. Yep, we added this to become roots. Okay, this is good. This is good. Apache is good. Okay, everything is good. Everything is good now. Of course, you remember Ansible is idempotent, right? If we run the playbook again, it's just going to say nothing to change, nothing to see here. It's not going to do any. It's not going to throw error. It's just going to tell us there's nothing to change here. Yeah, here you see. Yeah, there you go. Right? So I hope we've been able to do justice to how to create dynamic inventory in Ansible. Well, if you still have any doubt, I think you can send me a question, but I believe this is clear enough and simple enough that you will be able to follow everything that I've laid down in this video and actually create your own dynamic inventory. Once again, let me recap what is a dynamic inventory and why we need them. So let me go back to where we started from. We started from this presentation. We talked about inventory. Said often what you do as a system administrator is to compile the list of all the hosts that you want to manage, right? You put them in a dynamic, in an inventory, in a file that you call inventory, right? In fact, we also said you can group them by yourself, right? You can group those servers, database server or web server, right? Which is fine, but this is okay if you know the list of all the hosts that you want to manage ahead of time, right? And if you know they are not going to change, right? Right? So you can manually maintain this list, and that's what we call static inventory, right? And mostly, this is what people are taught. This is what they are aware of. But there are some other scenario, where your inventories, the list of your IP or your servers are constantly changing. Example that we gave was if you have auto-scaling instances, right? That scale the number of your servers up and down based on your application workload. So if you have more traffic to your application, it scales it up. If you have less traffic, it scales it down. So in that fluctuating situation, it's difficult to maintain a list of all your servers. Servers are coming and going. Servers are being created and dying at the speed of light. So things are happening. Or even in some cases, you don't even know the number of servers or IP addresses that you will have to manage ahead of time because they are being created dynamically. In this situation, right, it presents a kind of difficulty, right? You cannot maintain a list of servers adequately, right? Because the IPs are constantly changing. That's what I call fluctuating inventory. In that case, a static inventory will not help us. This is where dynamic inventory comes in. Ansible provides dynamic inventory plugins. So there are different plugins for different kind of services, especially cloud services. There are so many different plugins. But for the purpose of this class, we stuck with AWS plugin, and I've been able to show you guys how to actually use Ansible to create a dynamic inventory. So once again, thank you for listening to this video. I hope you enjoy it. I hope it's clear enough. If it's not clear, or if you get stuck at some point, you can send me a direct message. I will try my best to reply to you within a couple of hours. Thank you. Have a nice day and enjoy Ansible. Bye.